If you'd like to work along with me at home, open the Project Files folder, Lesson 7 folder, and Printing 03. If you're joining us from the previous video, you can continue to work in the workbook we used right there. Now we've just seen how to use Page Break Preview to adjust where the page breaks. And I wanted to point out that back on the Page Layout tab, we have this group called the Scale to Fit group. And here you can see that this document has been scaled to 96%. This scale feature happened whenever we changed the dotted lines to break the pages where we wanted them to in Page Break Preview. Previously, this was set to 100%. When you do that, you can see that the document no longer is scaling properly, and we now have these two hangy down parts on page 3 and page 4. You can use the scale option to automatically scale things to whatever you want. You could tell Excel to scale this down to 50% if you wanted to. The problem with that is that nobody's going to be able to read it. You can't see it here, but if you go out to Print Preview, look how small that is. Even if you zoom in, it's not very big. So the point is that Excel will be happy to scale your document to whatever percentage you want, but Excel doesn't care whether you can read it or not. It just does whatever you ask it to do. Watch this. How about if we get down to 10%? Let's look at that in Print Preview. Oh my gosh, that's our entire active area right there. So you have to be careful whenever you use this kind of scaling. Let's put this back to 100% again. An alternative way of doing things would be to use the width and the height setting here to have Excel automatically scale the document to fit on the number of pages that we want. For example, we could tell Excel that we wanted to see the width of this document as one page. In other words, squeeze it from left to right to squeeze everything onto one page. And Excel automatically scales it to 96% and then fades that out there. So Excel will take care of the percentage scaling if you just tell it how many pages you want. Let's take a look at the Example 2 worksheet while we're on the same subject. We'll do the Print Preview for this and see what this looks like. This actually prints on 7 pages, and every page looks pretty much the same because the document isn't very wide. If we go back to the View tab and choose Page Break Preview, we can clearly see where these pages break. Let me just make this a little deeper here, and we'll scroll down a little bit. There's page 1, page 2, page 3. It goes the whole way down to page 7. Now, if we wanted this to squeeze onto a single page, we could do that. Back on the Page Layout tab, we could adjust the scaling to say, take the height of this document and squeeze it onto one page. And Excel will happily do that. Here's our one page. Let's see what that looks like in Print Preview. And there you go. Page 1 of 1. Nobody can read it without a microscope, but Excel was happy to do that. Let's go back to Page Layout again and do something a little more sensible. Let's say that we needed this to fit on 6 pages instead. So we'll just go down here and say 6 pages. And all Excel does then is it just makes the text a little smaller and squeezes it onto 6 pages. And that's much easier to read and actually works pretty well. The width option wasn't an issue here because the width of the document only went out to column E. Had it gone out as far as column K or L, then we probably would have had to adjust the width as well as the height. That's the case back on Example 1. All right, so I'm going to set this document back to the way it was back in the first video in this lesson series before we had any of this stuff going on with the page breaks. We'll change the width back here to automatic, and then over here in the Page Setup group, I'll click the Breaks button and choose Reset All Page Breaks. So here you can see that the page is too wide. And all we have to do to fix that is just go up here and say, I just want to put that on one page and squeeze it in there. Here we don't have to worry about the height of the document because the document isn't very tall. It only goes down to row 63. But once again, we could just take this dotted line and drag it up to break this exactly where we want it to go. Now, if you think all this moving the page edges around and squeezing things to fit is too much work, in the next video we're going to talk about how to set up your document properly in the first place so that you don't have to do any of that stuff.